Let's freaking go. We have a loaded, and I mean loaded, show for you tonight. Obviously, the great Blake Ruffino will join us here in just a moment to chat LSU baseball. So it is a little bit of a different live stream. I know we are mostly football, but the demand to chat LSU baseball with the biggest games of the season coming up over the next 48 to 72 hours is so high. So I'm calling in my best friend in LSU media, your best friend in LSU media, Blake Ruffino. He will be joining us in just a second. But the big LSU football news today. You guys heard the rant on Tuesday night. It is now official. The SEC in 2024 will play an 8-game conference schedule. So just for reference, the 8-game schedule is already set for 2023. So the schedule for 2023 is not going to change. Just for clarification, the schedule for 2024 has yet to fully be set outside of LSU's season opener versus USC. So the SEC Destin League meetings are happening right now in Florida. It happens every year, but now Texas and Oklahoma are at those meetings. And it is official that an 8-game conference schedule will be set for 2024. Greg Sankey said, well, this is just for a transition year, and then we are going to have a 9-game conference schedule, potentially, right? So you guys know where I stand on this, but I just want to all of us be very clear here today. And I'm going to get to all your questions tonight, but just let me vent here at the beginning. Brian Kelly and Scott Woodward punked the rest of the SEC today, along with 4 other bold schools: Texas A&M, Missouri, Georgia, and Florida. Those were the 5 schools, according to sources, that pushed for a 9-game schedule. So for the SEC to have moved to a 9-game schedule for 2024, it would have taken 8 schools of the 16 to vote for it, but only 5 schools voted for it. So I'm looking at you, Alabama. I'm looking at you, Texas. I'm looking at you, Oklahoma. I'm looking at you, Tennessee. I'm looking at you, Auburn. You guys punked out. You guys don't want the hard road. You don't. The other schools, I get it. The other schools, I totally get it. You don't recruit as well as the other schools. You don't have the athletes the other schools have. I get it, which is why I commend Missouri for being bold. But there was nobody at the Destin League meetings like LSU, where Scott Woodward is on Feinbaum. Okay, he is on Feinbaum, and he is telling them, hey, we want 9 games. Brian Kelly is letting it be known, we want 9 games. And not only did he say that, he said, give us Alabama every year. And Nick Saban is on the other end of it. Nick Saban, for over a decade, has been asking the SEC to go to 9 games. And all of a sudden, he wants to go back to 8. Why? Because Nick is losing it. That is not the Nick Saban we know, the competitive Nick Saban. He's scared. He's scared. Texas is scared. Oklahoma is scared. Folks, the SEC, they'll ram it down your throats. This league, it means more. No, it doesn't. It definitely doesn't mean more conference games. The rest of the SEC got punked by 5 schools. Those 5 schools showed me some gonads today. They showed me that they are not scared. They showed me that they weren't scared. Okay? Don't be scared. Don't be scared. Now, apparently, Texas and Oklahoma didn't have a vote, according to the great John Sibley Butler, who knows way more about Texas than I do. But they still could have said, look, let's play 9 conference games. I'm sad. I despise the rest of the SEC. Despise the rest of the SEC right now, especially Alabama. And here's the thing. We might not ever go to 9 conference games. We might not ever. And the rest of the college football world is going to continue to laugh at us. The rest of the SEC, they're cowards. Cowards. Play 9 conference games. Play 9 conference games. Okay? So let's just, that actually makes sense now. Texas and Oklahoma didn't have a vote. All right, cool. Let's just say that that is the case. And that makes sense because what I was told is it would have taken a majority vote. So 8 would have been a majority of the 14. So thank you for setting me straight on that. So Texas and Oklahoma, I digress. You still could have let it be known that you want 9 because you are playing in the conference. And they might have. I don't know. Maybe I missed it. But folks, I don't care where you're from. All right? I don't care exactly how you might be watching this. But know that Brian Kelly came to the SEC in year 1, won the West in year 1, and is telling everybody we ain't scared. We're LSU. We are here to pump down anybody. We don't give a rip who we play. Tell me this. How many teams in the conference have a non-conference schedule like ours over the next couple of years? Not many. Not many. I give Georgia a lot of credit. They have scheduled brutal non-conference games. Brutal. They have scheduled Oregon. They tried to get Oklahoma this next year. Oklahoma chickened out. I give Georgia credit. I give Auburn a lot of credit. They have scheduled some really good non-conference games, home and homes with Penn States. But nobody has been less scared than LSU. And that means something to me. That means something. In a sport where we don't reward who you beat, we reward how many games do you not lose. That's what college football has always been about. That's what it's always been about. College basketball is the opposite. When it's tournament time, they ask, who did you beat this year? In college football, it's the opposite. It's who did you get beat by? Or how many losses do you have? We at LSU, we don't care. We'll play anybody anywhere. 2019 LSU on the road at Texas. 2011 LSU. 2011 LSU. Do you remember the season opening game? Top 5 versus Oregon in Dallas. 2007 LSU. 2007 LSU. Home and home with Virginia Tech. With Tyrod Taylor. You know what we did in all those games? We won all of them. Now, sometimes this is backfired. Scheduled games with Wisconsin. They probably should have beat us both times, but we split it. We'll see what happens with UCLA, but we lost that game. Okay? I am proud to be a fan of a program that is not scared. That's what this is all about. These players don't practice for months for just nothing games. Give them more competitive games. I don't give a rip that we ran up the score versus New Mexico. That doesn't mean anything to me. I'm telling you right now, I don't know if we're ever going to go to 9. Type Y for yes, type N for no. You are happy that the SEC schedule for 2024 remains at 8. Type Y for yes, type N for no. Cliff, our first super chatter of the evening, thank you so much. I promise if you're here for baseball, we will get right into baseball when Blake jumps on. Okay? I promise you. Always know, though, football holds precedent on this channel. But like we did with women's basketball, they were winning. They were in the playoffs. They were in March Madness. I went to March Madness. We talked a lot of women's basketball. We're going to continue to do the same thing and talk more women's basketball. We talked softball when they were in the postseason. We're going to talk baseball. All right? It is time for the rest of the SEC to get on our level. So to Georgia, to Texas A&M, to Missouri, and to Florida, I appreciate your boldness today. Now, we knew Kentucky wasn't going to do it. Kentucky's the most cowardly team in the SEC history. Okay? But I get it. I get Arkansas. I get it. I get Arkansas. I get South Carolina. Especially South Carolina, because they got to play Clemson every year at the end of the season. So South Carolina has a big leg to stand on. I totally get it. I totally get it. If you got to play Clemson every year, I get it. But come on. When you sign up for the SEC, if you want to walk around and say you're the biggest and baddest conference, you can't let these other conferences continue to rub it down your throat that you have 16 league teams and you only play 8 conference games. 16 teams. Okay? Doug, good to see you. LA Mom. James, thank you so much. Give me a call to, or whatever you can, James. Give me a shout. I still got your Charles Turner card. Master Blaster, good to see you. And we have a special announcement to make before Blake jumps on here. This is our biggest card giveaway. I was supposed to give it away on Tuesday night. The young man was already asleep, but the winner of the biggest card that we've ever given out here on PHL, the Joe Burrow PSA 10 card, is Jacob. Yes, Jacob himself is also a card collector. And Jacob, I know the bills are getting pretty crazy for you. He just popped out another kiddo. I think we all agree Jacob is one of the most die-hard PHLers out there. So congrats, Jacob. This card is for you, a PSA 10. You can't get a better copy of this, and you could see right through this card. And this is a hard card to get Gem Mint 10 grading. So congrats to Jacob. You get the biggest card that we've ever given out on here. And that's what we do. We've given out some big ones, too. We have given out some absolute big ones. But I don't like giving out my Burrows. I don't. But we do it. We give out a bunch of Burrow stuff. If you sign up for Patreon tonight, you're getting a Joe Burrow card. Now, you're not going to get a PSA 10 one, but you're going to get a really good one. Okay? So, if you sign up for PHL Patreon tonight, you're getting a Joe Burrow card in the mail on me. Okay? So, congratulations to Jacob. I think all of us would agree Jacob is a well-deserving winner of the card. Okay? So, there you go. So, if you sign up for the PHL Patreon, guess what? You get a Joe Burrow card tonight on me. All right? And on there, you can see my latest deep dive film study on Brian Thomas Jr. Okay? Folks, I got to be honest with you. I have never in my life, never seen a wide receiver that has been unluckier than Brian Thomas Jr. Never. BTJ is the most unlucky receiver I've ever seen. Okay? And we're doing a film study on him coming up in the next week. We got a bunch of Jaden Daniels content coming up. We have extra film studies, the Brian Thomas Jr. film study. I've already posted some of it on Patreon. Actually, it's exclusive content on Patreon. Those film studies will not ever be made public. So you support me, I give you exclusive stuff. I give you exclusive grades, scoops, all that good stuff. Make sure you check it out, patreon.com/LSU football. It's a great way to sign up and be involved with what we are doing. So, Cliff, you get to pick the next topic before Blake jumps on here. Danny, I appreciate you shouting this out. Haley Van Lith is tearing it up in the 3-on-3. You know what's interesting about that is 3-on-3 does not suit shorter players well. The fewer the players on the court, the harder it is to play the game if you're short. And Haley Van Lith is not huge, right? She is very skilled, though. And if you score in 3-on-3, length plays such a huge factor. You have got to be very good. I don't care if it's men's, women's, boys, girls. I don't care. It's hard. It is really hard to score. Okay? Folks, I'm fired up this week. I am fired up. I am a man of principle. I try to keep my principles the same in all sports. The most important thing for me in sports is structure. Schedule structure means everything. It does. And a good example of this, all right, is the Olympics. All right. I freaking love the Olympics for this reason. It happens once every 4 years, and the sports themselves don't really interest me. They just don't. but it's the format of the sport, right? It's the immediacy of the sport. It's how much is on the line in the sports that I love so much about it. So I love the structure. I love the history. And what happens is you will sit down and watch Olympic swimming because so much is on the line. So it's not the sport you're watching, it's the structure of the sport you're watching. And that is so important, right? That's why college football playoff expansion is something I'm not a big fan of, right? I'm telling you right now, the feeling you had in Tiger Stadium for the LSU Alabama game this past year, you're never going to have that feeling again. Never. It'll never be like that because Alabama will never be eliminated in the playoffs by November. They're too good, right? So anytime you fool with the structure of the sports, it's what matters. That's why SEC scheduling is something I've been so passionate about. It's been so stupid for so long, as Doug astutely pointed out. He's also a big card winner recently. I don't remember which one, but Doug won a pretty cool one not too long ago. The structure matters. What will it take for Coach Brian Kelly to reach the recruiting level of Georgia and Alabama? So this is a very good question from Cliff. The scary thing is we might not ever get to that level because, look, Georgia and Alabama, they're just ahead of us in that department. They whether it be proximity, brand, whatever the case may be, the metropolitan areas that are around those schools, they just kill it. They really do. So we might not ever get to their level as they are number one and number two in recruiting every year. They were this past year, the year before Texas A&M snuck in there, but Georgia and Alabama were still in the top five. And then the year before that, it was still basically Georgia, Alabama, Georgia, Alabama, Georgia, Alabama, 1-2, 1-2, 2-1, 1-2, 1-2. Okay. But the simple truth is this, Cliff. We might not ever get 1-2 every year, but I do think there will be a year. The 2025 class sets up really nicely. The five-star quarterback, Bryce Underwood, LSU is in good standing with. And then, of course, the state of Louisiana recruiting in 2025 is going to be really good with Harlem Berry and all those guys in there. So 2025 could actually be a year where LSU has the number one overall class. The most important thing, though, is recruiting top five overall classes. If you recruit in the top five each and every year, you have a shot to win national championships. You do. That's all there is to it. Okay. So I do think at some point there could be a world where LSU is out recruiting Alabama and Georgia. It's going to be really hard, but the good thing is we don't need to recruit better than them to occasionally beat them as last year proved. I mean, look, Alabama had Bryce Young, Alabama had Will Anderson, Alabama had Brian Branch, Jordan Battle, some of the best safeties they've ever had. And guess what? We still beat them. So that's the good thing about it. So I need some clap emojis here. We only bring him out for the big nights, baby, because he is super busy. He does a show every night. He's got one of the best YouTube communities on the freaking planet. I'm proud to be a part of it myself. Show some clap emojis for the man that I love more than anybody in LSU media. Blake Ruffino, what's up, my brother?
I feel like you're so high and like I'm so low.
I don't know what's happened. So what do I need to do? Do I need to?
Yeah, can you just like scrouch down just a little? Or how about this? How about this?
You oh,
there
the zoom in.
There we go.
So
Carter,
let's hear it.
I did not do a show tonight because my family's in town. Okay. But let me show you something.
Okay. Let's see it.
You are notorious for sports memorabilia, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Like cards, like memorabilia.
Yes.
Are you ready for this?
I don't know.
Are you ready for this?
Let's see it.
An LSU signed helmet from the National Player of the Year, Paul Skeens, and probably the first overall pick, Dylan Cruz.
Let's go. I
got the case coming in. So as the studio emerges, the National Player of the Year is a big Blake Ruffino fan. How about that?
What
What do you
kidding
think
me?
about Paul Skeens, potentially the pitcher of the year, the best pitcher in LSU's lifetime?
Oh,
Best. He's the best. It's no debate. It's no debate. It's over. The debate's over.
Are you kidding me?
The debate's
There are
over.
people with buzz cuts around the world that are not
I
happy.
think if he broke the record, Ben would tell you he's the best pitcher to ever put on the LSU uniform.
Now, I don't know Ben well, but he's a
I
pretty
think
humble
Ben will tell you that as soon as he gets the record. If they get to a national, maybe he won't admit it publicly, like out on a national broadcast. He's the best. Carter, last week against Arkansas, he had already thrown 72 pitches. He threw a fastball at 103 miles an hour.
Man, Blake, you coming in with hot takes, baby.
It's not hot. It's not. He might break Ben McDonald's record in 50 less innings.
Okay, so what about?
I don't care what James is saying in the chat. I don't care what they're saying.
What about my favorite pitcher of all time, Chad Jones? That's my favorite. That's my goat. I'm just kidding, but still, I don't know enough about Ben McDonald's career, and I don't know enough about LSU.
Ben McDonald was probably one of the best. You know, I mean, he's got his number retired in the rafters. It's different. Ben would tell you this. I'm telling you.
Man,
I'm telling you, Ben would tell you this.
All right, so just for reference, because our audiences are pretty much the same, but not quite the same.
Look, I love Ben McDonald. Let me just get that out of there.
Okay.
I adore Ben McDonald. Okay.
Dude, this is just hot though, man. I mean, you won't be on with us that long, but you just come in hot.
Well, I mean, you told me to tell you the truth.
Okay, but I wish I could argue for a bit.
He's a National Player of the Year. He's going to be the first overall pick. Okay. He's throwing 100+ miles an hour multiple times throughout a game.
Okay, so what did Paul Skeens? Was this his only year at LSU, Paul?
It doesn't have to be, but it will be.
Okay, so he can go to the MLB next year.
Aaron Nola's not bad. Yeah, he will be the first overall pick. Aaron Nola does not touch him. In a career, maybe, but pure talent, pure just raw talent. There's nobody better.
Okay, so before we chat regional, so that would mean like Skeens is on the Mount Rushmore of LSU baseball players, right?
I don't know about that, because when you talk about Mount Rushmore, you got to talk about careers, right? Like,
okay, that's fine.
Careers. But let me ask you this question, okay? You're going to throw Burrow on your Mount Rushmore simply due to one season. Why wouldn't you do it for Paul Skeens?
I once again, I'm not smart enough to answer that. I will say this.
No. What you're doing is you know that Daddy's right. 15 minutes. Listen, I've done a lot of things in 15 minutes in my life. 2 kids came from a 15-minute conversation. Okay, so I'm just gonna let you know. All right. To me, I know it's a hot take, but I'm there, bro. I am there.
Well, if you're a Rick Pitino, it'd be 15 seconds. So that's good. But yeah.
So what you want to talk about tonight, big dog?
Okay, but I'm not ready to move on from this. So where does like Lewis Coleman and those guys? Does Lewis Coleman?
I know Pooh and them said, well, if he wins a natty, then yes. Maybe they're talking about Mount Rushmore, but the natty in a baseball sense is not like Ben McDonald didn't win a natty.
Alex Bregman didn't either. I agree.
So Bregman didn't.
Yeah.
Lewis Coleman and them, they're up there. I mean, a guy that I think nobody talks about and doesn't get the credit he deserves is Alex Lang. I think that Alex was another one. I think we don't talk enough about Todd Walker from a baseball perspective. You remember that top 10 list, Carter, that came out not too long ago? Remember that?
Yeah.
And everybody was like, oh, Angel Reese deserves to needs to be on there. People weren't putting Todd Walker on there. They were putting Bregman above Todd Walker, and I wouldn't have done that from a career at LSU.
I got all the
Stephen coming in hot, saying Blake knows damn well he didn't make it 15 minutes. He's damn right I didn't make it 15 minutes.
I had no shame in that. All right, I got Patrick Coogan here.
The Coogster. I know Cougs well.
Yeah. Look, I got a Warren Morris card. I'm pulling this out.
Warren Morris. That's the home run right there, too.
Yeah.
James, no, he's not. Alex Ling is not a better pitcher than Paul Skeens. No, he's not.
All right, let's put a Sibley with this.
Look at there. Bam.
There you go, baby.
He just dropped in a hundo like his name's Nikola Jokic.
You better watch out, baby. Sibley comes in hot. All right, so I'm going to let you take this one, Blake. This LSU team is loaded, but has lots of questions. Is uncertainty still there for the bullpen? Tulane coming in with an 18-40 record. The 1 point why the Tigers will win the regional. So let's start with the first question here, Blake. The bullpen. That's what everybody wants to know about.
Well, there's two thoughts. I mean, what bullpen are you going to get? Are you going to get the one from the SEC tournament, or are you going to get the one from the regular season? I think you've seen flashes of this bullpen, like at periods in time, do some good things. But you can't have guys like Christian Little in there going out there and just walking four guys. You know what game I watched today, Carter? Kentucky. And people forget that Christian Little came out there and threw 3 straight innings of almost no-hit baseball and was shutting them out. It's just when he got in there and then he kind of got the yips and started having the walks. Bullpen, I think, is the biggest question. But the biggest question that I proposed on my show this week was you just can't leave that many runners in scoring position. I don't think that they will do that. I think that they're recharged and ready to go. Here's the bottom line truth. And me saying this puts a lot of pressure on Jay. There's not a team in their regional or super regional remotely even close to being as talented as they are. It is night and day different. Sam Houston does not have the talent that this would be like Carter losing to Mississippi State, like when you have elite teams. Right. So, I mean, you just can't. Oregon State lost both of their guys, their Friday and Saturday night guy. You can't lose to them in this series. Now, you could go to game 5. You can get in 5 games in this, but LSU's not going to get there. I think they get it in 3. Hopefully, they get it in 3. And then you wait the winner. I think it's going to ultimately be Kentucky or West Virginia, but we'll see there.
So for those that aren't familiar, so tomorrow the game will be on ESPNU. First pitch is set for 2 Central. LSU, Blake, could have picked the 7 p.m. Central game. I like the fact that they picked the day game. What say you?
It doesn't bother me at all. It doesn't bother me at all. I don't mind it. Just got to kind of get it over with and get some rest in. That's a lot. Skip used to do that a lot too. So I don't mind it at all in game 1. Doesn't bother me. Everybody's saying put Sam Houston, Oregon State out in the heat. Yeah. I mean, it's still going to be sunny and still pretty warm out at 7 o'clock. So get it over, get it done with. And then you get to scout, you get to be there and you kind of just you turn the tables, man. So we'll see.
Hurd or Floyd for the start tomorrow, Blake?
I ultimately believe so. Speaking of Ben McDonald, Matt Trent said that he had spoke with Ben today, and that he, since Jay has not come out with his starting pitching lineup or rotation, that he thinks that we could be in for a surprise tomorrow. Does that mean Javen Coleman? Now, Jay talked about today. He unsolicited was talking about Javen Coleman, the lefty who's coming off of Tommy John. That's interesting. Why Jay is a lot like Brian Kelly in the sense, Carter, that when they say something and it's out there and it's random, You better listen. Remember when Brian
Right.
Kelly last year talked about who was the linebacker they went to Auburn? DeMario Tolan.
Right.
Remember when all of a sudden Brian Kelly just in press conference kept bringing up DeMario Tolan? Well, why do you keep bringing up Javen Coleman going on a Friday? So he only threw 22 pitches last Friday. Let's see what Jay does here. Let's see what Jay does here. But my opinion is that he goes Thatcher Hurd. But we'll see. Thatcher's come on of late. Ty Floyd's not looked too damn bad, and you got the National Player of the Year in Paul Skeens.
So I feel pretty good about it. I know, Blake, this, being in media as long as you've been in it, people are scared of brands, and Oregon State is a baseball brand like LSU.
But they got dudes though, Carter. Like don't get it twisted. I know that their top two arms are out. Doesn't matter. You lost to Mississippi State 3 weeks ago. Okay, like you lost a series to Mississippi State 3 weeks ago. Go ahead and think that you're just going to walk all over them. Go ahead.
All righty. So the second part of this generosity from Sibley, the 1 point why the Tigers will win this regional
bullpen.
Right. So you think that's
bullpen
the biggest?
Well, I mean, other than a couple of games here and there, maybe a couple little stretches. I mean, LSU at the plate's been fantastic all year. I mean, they have not been shut down. I mean, what are we complaining about? Oh, their offense stunk, but they scored 8 runs in 2 days. And then, well, really and truthfully, in 3 days, they scored 18 runs. That's still not bad. So, you're just not going to win a lot of games in the SEC, Carter, only scoring 4 runs. And unfortunately, that's the issue. But I think if you get into a game 3 scenario and you're up 2 and you've won the first 2 games, you got to be able to close it out with your pitching. I mean, that it is what it is, because if Ty Floyd is not Ty Floyd or Paul Skeens has an off day, which, dude, it just happens. I mean, you just get into a place where you're going to have to rely on some of these guys to make a long run. But again, doesn't matter. Like, there's nobody in your remote region that's better than Kentucky that you took 2 or 3 from. I mean, West Virginia, yeah, they're not. They're actually looking like a pretty damn good team. But Carter, when we talk about light years, maybe they're not light years better than some of these teams. But like Tulane, Carter, they're 19-40. Oh, they're great. They made a run. Okay, well, they lost 40 games. Okay, like they lost almost as many games as you won, and they're in. You got to go out there at some point, Carter. I want them to go out there and get back to the form of imposing their will. I think they do. I do think that they do that Friday. I do think that they do that this weekend.
I just feel pretty good because I'm an LSU fan. I don't know enough about this to
well, I mean, look, I have all my show notes here. Right here in the studio. Let me just give you, so like I said, their top 2 pitchers are out. Trent Sellers is the only other guy that can go for them. Now, I don't know if he's going to throw against Sam Houston State, but he's got a 5.13 ERA. He's pitched 62 innings or 66 innings. But here's the thing about him, Carter. In 66 innings, he struck out 101 dudes. That's a lot. Okay, like that's a lot of dudes to strike out. Let me give you a reference. Paul Skeens has 160 plus and 80 innings. This dude has 166 innings. So he's getting a lot of swing and miss stuff. Here's the thing, though. Travis Bazzana, Mitch McDowell, Garrett Forrester, and Mason all hit above 328. They have 4 dudes in their lineup that can absolutely mash.
Okay.
If you're off, they are going to beat the shit out of you. Oh,
no, you can let it rip.
Okay. They're going to beat the shit out of you. If you let their bats get hot, they will beat the shit out of you.
Okay. So let me ask you this. All right. Tommy Tanks, I saw he made All-American team. Pretty cool stuff.
He did.
So I'm pretty sure Dylan Cruz made All-American too.
Yep, both made first-team All-American. Tanks, Cruz, and Skeens.
Okay, so those 3. Those are the only one that got the All-American. Okay,
yep, that's right.
All right, so is Trey Morgan going to be in left field?
I don't know that.
Okay, So as far as like the
Well,
lineup is concerned, what do you think that's going to look like?
I don't think it changes from what we saw this weekend, unless
Okay.
Jay saw something this week. I think I don't know. Like I look 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I don't care where Jay puts them. I really don't care what he puts these dudes because all of them can hit. All of them have gotten hot. Now I wouldn't put Jordan Thompson in the top 5, but that part I really don't care. Okay, it really doesn't matter. Right? Like, I mean, you're still been showing no matter what the order is, you can hit. When you talk about the lineup, I do question does Pearson get back in the lineup? You can't take out Joe Bear anymore, and hey, Travinci's got to be at the plate. Okay. So with all of that being said, the reason and everybody keeps saying, and I see this on on social media so much, put Trey back at first base. I get what you're saying. I do get what you're saying. But you got to get another bat in that lineup. Travinsky can't play left field when Milazzo's catching for Skeens. Beloso can't play anywhere else besides first base. So you got to be able to, if Paul Skeens wants Alex Milazzo in the lineup, you put Alex Milazzo in the lineup. Then you put Travinsky DH. You got to put Beloso at first, a.k.a. or Jones, and you got to have somebody out there in left field. It's been the ipso facto Trey Morgan, even when they're doing it with Jared Jones. Everybody's hating on Jared Jones. First off, he's a freshman hitting 298. He's hit 14 home runs as a freshman. Okay, we're Mr. Blake, he strikes out too much. I don't give two flying Rudy Poos. The dude can hit, okay? It's my only thing, Carter. So
yeah, people forget like Andrew Benintendi hit like 2 home runs his freshman year, and now he's 14's a lot.
Benintendi's really
does he suck in the MLB now?
Kind of sucks.
Oh man, that's crazy. That's crazy.
All right, listen. This is what we need to do.
Let's hear it.
As I wrap it up here with you, my family's leaving. Okay. Bring me back next week and we'll spend 2 hours on this. Okay.
But I want to promote your stuff. What does your schedule look like? Are you doing a post-game show tomorrow?
We didn't go tonight. We will do a post-game every LSU baseball game. Unless, for whatever reason, LSU has to play a doubleheader, we'll go after the second game.
Right. So just after the games. When LSU plays the game.
After the game, we're going live. That's right.
There you go. All right, buddy. Well, I appreciate you. Just a bold prediction here. You think
LSU in 3?
All right. That's all we needed to know. Tell your family I said hello. We'll see you, buddy. Cheers.
And let me say this before I go. Last thing. The reason 3, I think this team gets hot. I think this team makes a run.
Let's go. Let's go, Jay.
Hey.
Let's go, Wes.
Hey, Jay. Kim did it.
Yes. Get hot, baby. Let's rake. Let's go.
Love you.
All right, buddy. Cheers.
Bye.
I hope he's right. So there you go. I appreciate in his busy schedules taking some time out for us. I've watched him a fair amount. I don't know as much about him as you guys do. So if you are new to the channel, I am always going to be straight up with you when it comes to this, because I do see people try and talk college baseball just out of nowhere, and they sound stupid. All right. So Blake actually follows it every single game. People like Chance and obviously James. I will say that I watched a decent amount of the SEC championship. I was in Cincinnati last week, so it was kind of tough to keep up with everything. But Paxton Kling is the second most talented player on this team behind Cruz. Man, I don't know about that, James, but I appreciate your super chat. There you go. Wouldn't Tommy Tanks be the second most talented? Unless, I know Tanks isn't the fastest, so that might be part of your evaluation. I will say this, okay? I do think the runners in scoring position thing is going to clear itself up. I think runners in scoring position is not an overrated stat. It is very important, but I do think it's random when you get cold with runners in scoring position. And obviously, LSU was very cold at the SEC championship, going 3 for 20 in Hoover last week with runners in scoring position. I think those bats will get hot, right? And I also don't think any of these teams are as good as Arkansas or even a hot-ish Texas A&M. I think LSU is going to be fine. Okay, tar and feather me all you want. I think the runners in scoring position thing is going to work itself out. Now, as far as pitching is concerned, obviously you don't want to throw Skeens tomorrow versus Tulane, a team you should beat. So I'm going to let you guys decide who needs to actually throw. Doug, let me know what you think. Doug, you were the one that super chatted this question. Let's put it back up. Hurd or Floyd tomorrow? Type T for Thatcher, type F for Floyd, or H for Hurd, either one. Let me know what you guys think about that. Now, I will say this as well. College baseball is random. This is not college football where there's not many upsets in the playoff at all, or just not many upsets in general. College basketball, there have been more upsets in men's than women's. We did see more women's college basketball upsets this past tournament, but still, the powers that be normally make it to the Final Four, right? If you have Kim Mulkey, you're always going to have a chance. If you have Gino, you're always going to have a chance, and so on and so on. Baseball's random. Okay, look, I was in Alec Box when the Stony Brook thing happened. This stuff happens. Randomness happens. So, obviously, I if there is one thing, I hope Oregon State wins the regional. If we don't win it, because I do not want to hear Baton Rouge media if Tulane or Sam Houston win it. I don't. Also, I do think, and I meant to ask Blake about this. I do think Wes Johnson has gotten a little too much blame with the injuries that he's had, and this is his first year. And anybody that knows anything about college baseball recruiting, pitching is a very weird position at the collegiate level. It just is, right? I think it's easier to recruit field players instead of pitchers. And pitching is just a random thing at the collegiate level with the 11.7 scholarships. So a guy that goes to the major leagues, a guy that is coached for freaking Dave Van Horn at Arkansas and was very successful there. Don't let this 1 year sample size talk bad about a bullpen when there's been a lot of injuries. Now, once again, this is football guy speaking. I did play AAU baseball. Wasn't that great, but I did. I think Wes, even if the pitching goes sour this weekend, it's not time to fire anyone after just 1 year. Okay, so there you go. All right. So Thatcher, Floyd, Rick, what's good? All right. So it looks like you guys want Thatcher Hurd tomorrow. Okay. Also, I want this to be clear. I will not go live tomorrow after the baseball game. I just won't. All right. I might go live after one of the games. Just stay tuned for that. But our next live stream will probably be Sunday night, just our normal schedule. So there you go. And go support AYS. Obviously, I do some stuff for them. For Blake, he's one of my best buds. So yeah. Let's see here. Kling can play defense, has a good arm, runs well, and has a good bat. So you're saying it more from like a 5-tool perspective. I get it, right? But Tommy Tanks, God bless, he's good. He's freaking good. And I will say this: every time I actually sit down and watch LSU baseball, Trey Morgan goes off. So Trey Morgan, we both actually use the same blanket. I know that's weird. Not the same blanket. That would be very weird. But we both use a Bucky's blanket. So Trey Morgan, I think he's going to have a big week. I just feel it. I feel it in my soul. Trey Morgan is going to have one of the best, and I mean the best series of his life. All right. Now, here's what we're going to do. I know it's just a little bit different of a live stream. I know a lot of you are nervous tomorrow. I hope the LSU baseball team does well. Let's put it like that. It is kind of fun to just be a fan of a team instead of, breaking it down like we do football. And it's still fun to do that stuff too. So I'm going to be painted up LSU gear tomorrow. The Bucky's brothers. I like that. All right. We're getting a transfer from Air Force. Look at Tyler with the scoop. I love it. Here's what we're going to do. Type Y for yes, type N for no. If you want to keep chatting LSU baseball, type Y for yes. If you want to move back to football, type N for no. It's just that simple. Type Y for yes, type N for no. And as always, super chats, you hold the weight. Okay? So we could keep chatting baseball. If you want to go to football, we'll happily do it. You guys heard my rant at the beginning about the 8 and 9 game conference schedule thing. So let's see. Chance says he's down for whatever. James wants to keep the baseball going. Cliff also super chatty. You guys want to move over to football. So here's what we'll do. We'll talk some baseball just a little bit, and then we'll get back into football. Okay. So really quickly, as far as baseball is concerned, let me bring this up. I know we mentioned the college baseball randomness. I do think it is nice and a step forward for the program that we are hosting a regional again, right? Rick is back in the Patreon. Congratulations, Rick. I really appreciate you. I appreciate your friendship as well. Thank you so much. You get access to the Brian Thomas Jr. film study and all that good stuff. And I really, really, really do appreciate you. And I'll be sending you a Burrow card. Just make sure you're tonight. Everybody that signs up for Patreon, you get a Burrow rookie card tonight if you sign up. Okay, that's on me. All right. So here's what we're going to do. My last thing on baseball, and then we'll get into football, right? Understand that this weekend is already a win. Okay. Number one, LSU hired the right coach. Okay. Now, I do think Jay Johnson has felt some of the pressure. It is a little bit different than being at Arizona because everybody is so high strung about LSU baseball, and I get it. If you win 6 national championships, and Skip Bertman is a guy that started this thing, and the last 2 coaches obviously have won national championships. Well, kind of, sort of. If you have the history with Minieri and everything like that, it is clear that LSU needed to make this move, and it is clear that Jay Johnson is a good baseball coach, right? I see you guys on Twitter, you disagree with this decision or that decision. It's hard. It's really, really hard. With injuries and 11.7 scholarships, you can have the best resources in the world. You just can't out-recruit people the same way you can in other sports. You can't hoard all the talent like you can in football or really basketball. It's hard. College baseball coaching is really freaking hard. You can argue it's the hardest and the most random. So, yeah, I think he has felt some of the pressure. I think he's kind of tired of, the criticisms and the pitching and the injuries and all of that. So let's just, and I know we only care about national championships, but from a process standpoint, let's celebrate that LSU is hosting regionals and they're in a super regional position, right? If you win this weekend, you get super regional baseball in Baton Rouge the way it should be. And it should be LSU, the standard should be Omaha every year and no less than a super regional top 8 seed every year, right? So this is a step in the right direction. Now, is this one of our most talented teams ever? Yeah, right? As Blake stated, we could have the best pitcher and the best hitter we've ever had on the same team. And obviously, that doesn't include Tommy Tanks, who you guys consider the best hitter in the entire sport. So, yeah, I mean, this is a good thing. So, no matter what happens, For me, this is a step forward in the right direction. But ultimately, you got to win a national championship. And if you don't at least make it to Omaha with this roster, this is a disappointment. Okay. The only thing I'll say, no matter the results of this weekend from an LSU baseball perspective, okay, we have pointed out the injuries, but remember, the sign of a well-coached team at any level of sport, it doesn't matter the sport. Does your team get better as the season moves on? Okay. That is the sign of a good team. All right. A team that starts hot but regresses is not what I want. Right. If you go look really closely, a lot of Les Miles teams, even the good ones, they started really hot, but they regressed. They didn't get better. Right. Brian Kelly in 1 year, that's probably the biggest crescendo we have ever seen an LSU football team take. Okay. Orgeron's teams, outside of those final two, the others, they all got better as the season moved on. Okay. So, this year, that's not been the case. LSU baseball regressed. They're not playing their best baseball right now. Once again, it is a different sport than the other sports, but all the other sports, Mulkey is a good example of that. That team kept getting better and better and better as the season moved on. And a lot of people thought it was because women's basketball didn't play a great schedule. But I do think that is the only thing from a macro standpoint about LSU baseball that I think is a concern. But this team can get hot, and I do think this team will make it to Omaha. I do. Okay. So JJ's biggest issue is situational offense. Yeah, the runners in scoring position. I do think it's going to get better. I do. Okay. Once again, Edwardo, send me an email. Please do. Or a message on Twitter or Instagram at Power Hour LSU. Okay. It definitely adds pressure, Chance. I think it does. Especially, if you're an outsider and you go from Arizona, which has, they care about baseball, but you go from there and then you go to the biggest job in the country. It's hard. It's very, very, very hard. So I think it does help having Skip around. I don't think Skip tries to go in and like coaches a team and all that, but I mean, at LSU, you got to win the big ones, right? You got to get to Omaha. You got to win the whole thing. It is also crazy to think that like Bregman, he got to Omaha. We didn't win it all. Obviously, Ben McDonald didn't win it all. This stuff is very random, y'all. It's very, very, very random. Okay. And since we have won it, Ole Miss has won it, Mississippi State has won it, South Carolina has won it, Vanderbilt has won it, right? You wouldn't consider any of those programs athletic powerhouses, okay? Outside of Florida, those schools don't really have anything else going on with the other sports. Vincent, congratulations. Vincent is also a member of the PHL Patreon. Congratulations, Vincent. You are a part of a growing, fun community. Okay. There you go. Congratulations. Man. I will say this though. You can just see it though in the press conferences. There's been pressure added to the pressure cooker here. It's hard. This stuff is really freaking hard. Okay. But yes, please, Everdo, send me an email, Instagram, or Twitter at Power Hour LSU. Okay. All right. So Floyd Friday. So there you go. Now we will move back into football. All right. Answer anything football related. Now, 6 quarters. All right, is this for football. I like that. Yes, yes. So there you go. Now, the official visit calendar is picking up. I will say this about official visits. Always remember these two things in recruiting. All right. And it's not the be all end all what I'm about to say. It's not. But your difference makers are normally your top 125 national recruits. So those guys do have extra weight. And once again, that doesn't mean that those players are the players that are going to be your best players. Not what I'm saying at all. Burrow, Jefferson, and CEH were not of that variety. Okay. One was a lower tier 2-star, one was a middle tier 3-star, and the other was a 4-star. Okay. But top 125 and top 100 recruits are the difference makers. Okay. So, if you go in with that mindset, obviously, you can't just get each and every one of those, and you need role players and all of that. So everybody you recruit matters, right? It's random. On average, about half of your players turn out to be good. On average, per recruiting class, 3 to 5 of them turn out to be superstars. Okay. Last year was our best true freshman class we probably have ever had, right? Just so many really good football players helping us out in year one. So the one I'm looking at, Chance, and I won't go too deep on this one. Here is Cam Coleman. I really like him out of Alabama, a high level receiver that's making a visit late in June. I do think he's really good. It's going to be hard. I don't think there's like a super LSU lean there at all. I just think it's one of these visits where you're just happy to be a part of the recruitment. I really do like him. He's been my favorite receiver I've seen. I know everyone's going to say Jeremiah Smith, the young man committed to Ohio State, who played in the same high school division as Jaylen Brown and those guys. Really competitive division in Miami, but Cam Coleman is a dude, and I know I've talked about him a good bit on this channel. And then, of course, the other big name is Dominic McKinley, who's actually an in-state 5-star, who's actually leaning towards LSU. Now, this is just a guy that needs to get hammered home, right? You don't have to love his tape to understand that a 5-star in your own backyard is a guy that you need to land a lot of the times. All right. And once again, there's no such thing as a must-get recruit, but 5 stars in the state of Louisiana. How different would you feel about this next year's team if Mason Smith wasn't involved with the team? And understand, look, people close to Mason watch his channel. I'm not just saying that just to say it. He's a really good football player. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. And, 5-star defensive linemen make a big difference, like a Georgia. But you got to land more 5-star linemen for it to make a massive difference. It is the accumulation of 5-star linemen that matter. Okay. So it's not just going to need to be Dominic McKinley. Obviously, the big get is going to be Colin Simmons, who LSU in the past month has gotten Colin Simmons to take a photo with Jamar Chase, Angel Reese, Joe Burrow, and this past weekend in Nashville, Livy Dunn. So, we're rolling out the red carpet. We're the A-listers are helping out with this. So, Colin Simmons is just so far ahead of everybody on my personal board. Just the players that I've watched up to this point, he's the best. And we'll see how all that turns out. And he knows he's good, right? He's just that good. Like, he's just that big of a difference maker. And it does help that there are other kids for Duncanville in Texas that like LSU. So from a recruiting standpoint, obviously, I think you guys have seen a lot of the in-state guys are picking LSU. This is more of a defensive minded Louisiana when it comes to the elite recruits. It's Trey Des Green and a lot of defensive guys. Wallace Foster and all those guys. So yeah, we'll see how all this recruiting turns itself out. But also keep this in mind as official visits do ramp up. The later the official visit, the better. Okay, so fall official visits during the season are still very important. And let's be honest, wherever Colin Simmons is going to go, if he plays his cards right, he's going to make a lot of money, right? And look, it wouldn't be a football channel if I did not bring up NIL. Look, there's a lot going on right now at the higher powers, the people that have way more power than I ever will have when it comes to name, image, and likeness, and how all of this is going to play itself out. We're seeing, state laws being passed in certain markets and all of that. And look, it's part of the game. It's part of the game now. It's part of the game. Okay. We're going to need defensive lineman. Chance, also a PHL patron. Good to see you. And I appreciate the mail this week, man. Feel free. You know where I live now, so feel free to send away, my brother. Better late than never. Ain't that right, Forbes? Can't have a live stream without Forbes in here. Yeah, Duncanville. Their coach, Reginald Samples, won his first state championship last year. Colin Hurley played his best. I said Colin Hurley. Colin Simmons played his best in the state championship game. Okay. And that means something to me. I want you to play your best against the best. Okay. So there you go. Now, 3-star Louisiana recruits, they can be the big difference makers. You're right about that. Okay. So recruiting, I understand that a lot of kids are going to jump in and out. All right. Now, we're looking good. We're looking good. This might not be an all-time class. That's fine. As long as you're in the top 5 to top 10 nationally, you're doing fine. Obviously, we want to be 1, 2, 3. That's where you want to be. Okay? So, there you go. Let me take a look at this really quickly. We are an hour into this. Let's go to Rick. He wants to chat women's basketball. I'm always down to chat LSU women's basketball. Okay? How cool is that women's basketball natty gets parlayed into LSU football recruiting from exposure and personalities? The Bayou Barbie. Yeah, look. Angel Reese is making a lot of money. It would not shock me if the WNBAers are super jealous. I mean, I would be too. Right? It is amazing how much money she's making. She is now a spokesman for Starry, which is the I don't know too much about Starry. It's a lemon lime soda. She's in commercials with Zion Williamson and Karl Anthony Towns. She's getting NBA, sponsorships now. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And she's honestly the biggest star on campus. And I'm not just saying that just to say it. I mean, obviously when Harold Perkins is the first round pick, the spotlight will be on him. And of course, if Jaden makes a Heisman run, he immediately becomes the biggest star. But I honestly, I don't know. Angel Reese is a phenomenon, and everybody knows her. They just do. I think she's so famous. She's not on Burrow Shaq level, which is just a completely different level of fame where, almost every single person knows those two faces immediately, but she's close. I mean, it's crazy how famous she is. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Then honestly, Kim Mulkey, one of the few predictions that I made about Kim Mulkey from a football perspective is she would make a difference in football recruiting. I wish I kept up with like the live streams with like all the hot takes that I've made. I remember doing this one roughly a year or so ago, saying that Kim Mulkey was going to move the needle in football recruiting, and she does. I mean, Tylen Singleton is a really good player in the state of Louisiana. He's one of the top, 100, 125 kind of guys that we're talking about. His family wanted to meet Kim Mulkey on the recruiting trip. I'm not making that up. That was part of the visit roughly a month ago. Kim Mulkey's a big star too. I mean, when you get introduced by Michael Jordan at the Basketball Hall of Fame, you're somebody. Okay. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. Connor, good to see you again, man. Let me know how you're feeling tomorrow. Connor, one of our Oregon State PHLers. Connor, I'm going to call you out right now. And I want you to be honest as we take a look at the poll question. 75 to 95%, not winning the regional, but making it to Omaha. I like that. Connor, I want you to be honest. Have you hit the subscribe button, Connor? Have you hit the subscribe button? I would say so. Yes. Livy makes the most money, but there you go. James, thank you so much. Another generous super chat from you. I really appreciate that. Dang, Connor, it's free to hit the subscribe button, brother. That's all it is. Huh? I even dropped a Daggett and Norbert reference during our last live stream. I'm pointing out all the famous beavers. I mean, it's Daggett, Norbert, and Beaver Cleaver. Okay. Well, Rick, thank you so much for the super chat. All right. Let's go to James and let's do this. James was the winner of the Charles Turner card. Congratulations, James. Let's change the poll question for James. Okay, so a lot of you feel good about Garrett Nussmeier. Let's see this. All right. All right. Type Y for yes, type in for no. You believe Garrett Nussmeier gets 25% of the snaps next year. Let's see. Y for yes, type in for no. Okay. Do you really drop it in super chat? Okay. Can someone explain why so many people have Bama predicted to finish higher than LSU? I seriously don't get it. It's brands. It's brands. It's honestly it. But there's no reason on paper to have Bama over LSU at this point, especially since Nick Saban cowardly doesn't want to play 9 conference games. Okay. So I'll finish up on that question here in just a second, D, really. But I'm going to finish up here with James's super chat for the Garrett Nussmeier reps. Really appreciate you, James, recently with your generosity. Really helps during the offseason, guys. Offseason gets rough. I really appreciate you guys. So let's start with Garrett Nussmeier here. Um, so I know you're relatively new, James. I know people close to Jaden. I know people close to Nuss. So I always say that, disclaimer before anyone says bias. I like both of them. I really do. I don't favor either one of them just from personal, you know, anything, right? I've never met either one of them, never spoken to either one of them personally. So any evaluation I give for both of them, it's just objective. Um, I think Gary Nussmeier gets roughly 20 to 25 percent of the snaps. I think he's going to get a heavy amount of snaps versus Grambling. And I will also say this, okay? I am not the biggest Jim Harbaugh fan. I am not, okay? I think as a college coach, he is very good. Obviously, he has brought Michigan back to prominence and he's beaten Ohio State um, 2 years in a row. But his bowl record is horrible. And you could point to that being totally random, but every year his name is up for the NFL and he doesn't ever squash the rumors. And that hurts him in recruiting and it hurts him in bowl season, to be quite honest. But all of that aside, I think Jim Harbaugh did something pretty smart last year where he released a public statement saying, look, we are going to start Cade McNamara in the first game, and then we're going to start JJ McCarthy in the second game. And from that, we are going to evaluate who the guy is going to be. And obviously, Jayden is going to be the guy. He should be the guy. He's a fifth-year quarterback who's had a lot of success running this offense, and he gives us a lot as a QB. But if I was Brian Kelly, I would start Garrett Nussmeier week 2, no matter the result of week 1. And the reason why I would do that is for a few reasons. The first is Garrett Nussmeier has never started a game at LSU. Never. And starting is very different than coming off the bench. If you officially are the starter, you are the guy running the ship. Everybody in that building knows you're the guy. Everybody in the other building knows you're the guy. So they're able to put a game plan, even though it's Grambling. They're a 3-8 team from the FCS. So what? You're the guy, right? It does change a lot when it comes to the mental aspect of playing the quarterback position. So if I was LSU, that's what I would do. And I would give Garrett Nussmeier all the reps. And obviously, I think he would light up Grambling. And it would also give you a sense of what the team would look like if he is the starter. So I think obviously he's going to get a lot of snaps in that game. And I think they're going to go in with a Purdue mindset with, Garrett getting into the game really early, even if he does elect to start Jayden. But then after that, I think I think LSU is going to be a very good team next year. So if we do blow out some teams, Garrett's going to get a lot of reps in the second half. So, that would get him probably in the like 15 to 20% snap share going into this next year. But I think Jane's a guy, and I think Jane's going to be a pretty solid player for us next year. But Harbaugh doing that, he got a lot of blowback for that. But I go back to a point Joe Burrow made, and I'm not just saying Joe Burrow just because he was on the channel recently, but Joe Burrow said this in an interview before that it took him a while to actually get to where he felt comfortable playing in games. The most scarce thing we have in sports is quarterback starts. It is the most scarce thing, and it is the most important thing. Game reps are the most important thing when it comes to the quarterback position. And it's not like the NBA. It's not like basketball where you could just kind of ease people into a rotation. Quarterbacking is mostly, you could try the 2 quarterback system thing, but even then there's one guy that's going to start and there's one guy that's not. It's a pretty, straightforward kind of thing. So, that's why I'm a big believer in getting Garrett a start. Even if it even if it means nothing, it at least gives him the peace of mind going into 2024 that he feels pretty comfortable being a starter. Because I'll tell you this, one thing I don't want is his first ever start being, USC in Vegas, which would be crazy. Here's a good follow-up here. Do I think, and then we'll get to D-Really's super chat. Do I think Garrett Nussmeier starting versus UGA in the SEC championship game would have changed the outcome considering Jaden's ankle injury? So it's a good question. There were a few throws that Jaden, I think, missed early in that game. One that we actually just posted on Patreon. There was one early that I think Garrett would have made that Jaden would not. That Jaden decided to go elsewhere with the football. And that's it. Actually, wasn't a bad throw by Jaden. It's just the different philosophies of the two quarterbacks. And if you go back, James, we did an interview with Dre Jenkins recently where he did a very good breakdown, specific breakdown of both of them. I'll upload the clip and post it on here for the next Sunday night live stream. But yeah, I think it wouldn't have changed anything because Kirby Smart would have had a different game plan ready to go versus Garrett Nussmeier. I do know this. I know Kirby is close with Garrett's dad, Doug. Going back to the Bama days from both of them, I do think Garrett obviously played better than Jaden in that game, and to beat Georgia, you got to get vertical. To beat any great defense, you got to get vertical. And Ohio State obviously had that with CJ and Harrison and those guys. But yeah, I think I don't think it changes anything because Jalen Carter is still on Georgia's team, and he was not going to be denied. He tore us up, and that whole defense gave us problems early in that game. Now, that's not to say Jaden didn't play well. He had a fine first half versus Georgia. So I like Garrett a lot. I don't think it would have changed the outcome. I don't. All right. Jordan, what's good, man? What's good? Let's go. We got Jordan in here. We're cooking with grease, baby. Really, it's a good question. We really won't know until SEC Media Days if LSU actually is predicted to win the West. I think that would be the first time that they're predicted to win the West in forever. I mean, obviously Saban is pretty much penciled in to win the SEC every year. So yeah, it should be very interesting. So right now in Vegas, Alabama's win total is higher than ours. Okay. They have a win total of 10. Ours is at 9.5. So it's not like something crazy. And Bama's non-conference schedule, they get Texas at home in week 2. We have to play a better Florida State team in Orlando at a neutral site. So it is different. But yeah, really, I don't quite get it. I really don't. I guess because the LSU Alabama game is in Tuscaloosa. But we draw Missouri in the East this year. And even though I hate where that Missouri game is on the schedule, and I think that could be a potential trap game for us, man, we get a little lucky that we get Missouri out of the East this year, whereas last year we played Tennessee, the best Tennessee team that they've had since, Peerless Price. So, yeah, I think I honestly think I think LSU is going to be predicted to win the West. I think it's going to be the first time. I do. I can't see Nuts getting the start over JD5 against the bad teams as well because oddly enough, JD5 has Heisman odds moving into next year. I don't think BK takes snaps away from him. And that's a good point as well. That's a really good point. Less pressure. Yeah, I could see that as well. Some media members don't like doing it, so they just put Bama just because it's Bama. But Bama has 2 new coordinators and a new quarterback. And Nick had his roughest year, since 2015? And that was only 2 losses, but still. There you go. Now, here's something really cool. If you want to play fantasy football with your boy, it's very simple. You guys know where to go. All right? It is none other than Underdog Fantasy. Let's go. Let's go. If you love Power Hour content, you will love Underdog Fantasy, baby. Sign up right now, promo code Carter, for that delicious bonus, baby. And you, I'm looking at you right now, can take advantage of something called Best Ball Fantasy Football. Bam! I'm looking at. There you go. Underdog Fantasy, UnderdogFantasy.com. If you're outside the state of Louisiana, you can sign up for UnderdogFantasy.com. There's a few other states where you can't, but still. Check it out for yourself. Underdog Fantasy. UnderdogFantasy.com. Let's see here. Look at these guys. It's one of my favorite photos of the past year. Look at these guys. Look at these guys. Bam! The kid. What's good, man? It's just hard to say because Nuts is such a great passer with such potential to see him sit. And let's beat him. There you go. Who will become the number 2 tight end behind Mason Taylor? It very well could be Giovanni Peterson. It very well could be. Let's see here. I wanted to put up the schedule really quickly. All right. There you go. All the mumbo jumbo. And where is the schedule? I always love seeing this. PHL on the road, baby. Let's go. But drive safely. I think Mac Markway is going to play a lot if he's healthy. I do, because he's more of a blocking tight end. He's more of a tight end than Pimpton and McGohan, but those two just give you so much as a receiver. But Mason is just a complete package. Now, what I'll say about Mason Taylor is his blocking reps early in the season were tough, but that's okay. Because he's a true freshman tight end. It's a hard position. But yeah, I wanted to point this up because I was bringing up the Missouri thing. We did a video earlier in the week chatting about 11 a.m. kickoffs. I like 11 a.m. kickoffs for this reason. It allows you to get on with your day. I still think all college football games should kick off at 2 or 6, or 2 or 5, somewhere around there. Still, that Missouri game, I'm telling you, the Missouri game it's just brutal. It's just such a brutal spot. The Tiger Air helmets, yeah, that's cool. The air conditioned helmets, it's dope. So we haven't discussed this on a live stream yet. It was announced yesterday that the first game of the season, we already knew the start time, which was 6:30 on September 3rd, which is a Sunday. But then week 2 will be a night game in Tiger Stadium versus Grambling. Then in week 3, Mississippi State will be an 11 a.m. kickoff. Okay. So type Y for yes, type N for no. Are you in favor of the occasional 11 a.m. kickoff? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Okay, as we take a look at James's poll question, percentage of snaps Nuggets in 2023, 0 to 25 is currently winning the poll. There you go. No word on Connor Gilbreth. Do we have an advantage with AC helmets? Probably not, but it does help for these fall practices where it's going to be really, really, really hot. The players, coaches, and support staff love 11 a.m. kickoffs because they aren't cooped up all day in the team hotel and get off at a reasonable time. Okay. So, I understand that not everybody loves the 11 a.m. kickoffs. I get it. All right. But to Grant's point, I do like an LSU home game once a year at 11 a.m. Now, I wish it wasn't the Tennessee game because that is such a big game. And for Tennessee fans, you only go to Tiger Stadium once every 12 years, right? That won't be the case anymore. Hopefully, with the new schedule, I won't get into schedule ranting again. But, I got to say, 11 a.m. kickoffs are good for this reason. Stadium workers are able to get home a lot earlier. Traffic after games is during the day instead of at night. People don't get as boozed up. So I don't have the statistics in front of me, but I would guess crime, theft, drunkery, all that stuff is just way lower in a scenario where we get an 11 a.m. kickoff. So I would like one home game being an 11 a.m. kick because, like many of you know, you see it. Tyler's one of these guys that works a lot of graveyards. There's some people that only work graveyards on Saturdays, and they're not able to watch LSU football games. They're not able to go to an LSU football game. What's up, John? Good to see you, brother. Now, what I would also say, the 11 a.m. games is good for road games. Now, we're not a good 11 a.m. team. We're not a good 11 a.m. team. That's all there is to it. Okay. But what I would also tell you is, as far as 11 a.m. kickoffs are concerned, a road 11 a.m. kickoff is so much better for your team because you get back at a reasonable hour. Now, if you're an LSU fan, the one thing you do not want is the Ole Miss game to be a night game in Oxford, because the next week we got to get on a plane, go to Missouri, all right, and we have to play a difficult team, okay? A game where, they play a lot of 11 a.m. kickoffs. So I'm worried about that. Now, the next thing I would say about 11 a.m. kicks that I think is very, very, very important, all right, And I don't love 11 a.m. kicks for a lot of reasons, but I do from my vantage point with all the post game film studies and all the stuff that we do. One thing I would say about 11 a.m. kicks, there is a pretty premium game on the schedule this year that could be an 11 a.m. kickoff. All right. So I'm going to put the schedule up here. All right. And once again, this is a sport that is dominated by television contracts. Okay. The TV powers that be determine everything. So on October 14th and November 4th, CBS has the double header. Okay. So for the November 4th doubleheader, CBS has a 2:30 kickoff and a 7 p.m. kickoff. All right. And CBS is able to pick any game that they want to be in either one of the slots in an SEC matchup. So more than likely, the November 4th game versus Alabama will be a night game. Now, you would prefer that to be the 2:30 because you get home at an earlier hour to get ready for Florida. But the November 4th game versus Alabama is going to be a night game. The issue, though, is October 14th, CBS has an 11 a.m. and a 2:30 p.m. double header. Okay. So let me just show you this really quickly. It's SEC football. All right. So I'm going to show you this. Won't take long. All right. So let's go to week 7. All right. So just to show you this rapidly, and I will take this off your screen. All right. So CBS gets to pick 2 of these games right here. Okay. For a 11 a.m. and a 2:30 p.m. double header. Okay. So just by looking at these matchups, LSU versus Auburn could very well be a CBS 2:30. But also just by looking at this matchup is if we're a good team, which I think we will be, CBS is going to want us for this week, right? CBS oftentimes gets the LSU Auburn game, okay? This very well could be an 11 a.m. kickoff. Okay. Now, next year, SEC on CBS is done. All right. But LSU Auburn very well could be an 11 a.m. kickoff. All right. Once again, week 14, CBS gets to pick 2 games. But no matter what, if we are selected by CBS as one of the top 2 matchups here, we're going to be playing this LSU Auburn game as a day game. Okay. That's true, John. It does get very hot, but it's also very hot for the road teams as well. Huh? All right. I'll show you this so you guys know that I'm tell you the truth. Okay. Scroll this down. Okay. You see right here, October 14th, they get noon and 3:30. All right. So that game is probably going to be LSU versus Auburn, 8-day game. Just hope it's the 2:30. Okay. Now, if Auburn is really good and we're really good, that game is more than likely going to be at 2:30. But kind of a low-key story. That's why you subscribe to PHL if you love deep breakdowns such as this. Okay. That's true. So the Florida game got moved around with Arkansas. And, normally you play Arkansas in November after the Bama game, but this year it's different. Florida in November after the Bama game and Arkansas earlier in the season. Okay. Very interesting stuff. Okay. Here's a fact for you. LSU has a 9-game tradition because we had lights earlier than most. Bama and Ole Miss played off campus in Jackson and Birmingham because of their non-lights at home. And LSU being on at night in the 50s and 60s with powerful AM station, people as far as the East Coast could hear games. Yeah, being in radio, I've always known like the science of like the AM radio waves at different points in the day. The frequencies are stronger. I never really thought of it like in terms of like football being on the radio. I'm glad. That's why I appreciate you, Chance, big time. Yeah, I mean, that's already the case like now. Like the one thing that the games being on the radio or on your mobile phones now have done is you can multitask a lot easier, right? Weddings are now and weddings in the fall are now ruined even more, right? So here's what we're gonna do. In the next 10 minutes, I'll answer as many questions as we possibly can. If you super chat, we'll keep it moving. Okay. I know towards the end we talk about national sports and other things as well. Denver Nuggets, they get it done tonight versus the Heat. They also cover the spread. No shocker there. This NBA Finals matchup is very lopsided. Now, if there's someone that can steal a few games, it's Eric Spoelstra and Jimmy Buckets. But yeah, I mean, the game opened at 8.5, and I kept reading that the sharp money was coming in hot on Denver. So it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. I want legislation to ban fall weddings. Yeah, you know what's interesting, Grant, is I actually booked another wedding today, and I DJ a decent amount of weddings, but it's just like a side thing. I'm not Steve Aoki or anything like that, but I'll make your party a lot of fun. I will. Okay. It's tough to turn down weddings in the fall. It is tough, right? Like if somebody wants me to do a wedding or an event, it's got to be worth it, right? And yeah, it's just hard. It's really, really, really hard. Something else about fall weddings is, and this just drives me nuts. Okay. It doesn't matter who you are watching this right now, unless you work for the team, there is always going to be more games that you watch on TV than you actually attend, right? Unless you cover the team, work for the team, or you have a crap ton of money, right? Um, so TV is always going to win out, right? If you're an A-list sport, the television contracts, even if you're not an A-list sport, the TV is always the most powerful thing. The network executives are the most powerful people in the sport. I don't like that the NFL is picking up the college football model where you don't know what time a game is going to be played until 2 weeks or a month beforehand, right? Set a time and stick with it, but that's just not how it works, right? So, look, I hate it. I know a lot of you probably don't like it either. But it's just how it works. If you pay these universities the most money, you get to call the shots, and they're going to do what they tell you. Okay. But yeah, and by the way, if you want to book me for your wedding, I'll travel. I don't mind. I'll hop in the wagon. I'll get to it. Now, I don't have a car, but I'll take one. Sibley, our top super chatter, once again. We might need a portal for men and women who are married. Now, I think a lot of you would like that. I have no comment. Because you can actually see me. But type Y for yes, type N for no. If you agree with Sibley, there should be a transfer portal for men and women who are married. Okay. Sibley, you were the one that brought it up. He says no. I'm kind of curious why it's taking you guys and gals so long to respond to this one. But that's not here nor there. There you go, Jacob. The silence is deafening. Cliff says, yeah. Open season. Go for it. Everybody in Baton Rouge right now is saying, oh, we needed a portal for that? I'm just saying. Beep. Whatever floats your boat. Pegasus, it's about the same. I did feel better about the secondary going in to last year than I am this year. That's not necessarily spring game related because, going into last year, I'd watched a good bit of Converse's snaps, and I watched some of Gardner as well. But Jarek really sold me. Now, Jarek had some rough moments, but he was really good. He was mature. He played a lot of football. He was an all Big 12, performer, and he's a very cerebral player as well. There's a lot of secondary members that are really talented that haven't played as much football as that guy has, right? Hopefully Chestnut, that transfer hits. There's going to be a lot of pressure on him. And hopefully Denver Harris plays to his ability. But I do feel pretty good. So, Doug, I'm glad you say this publicly because some of you do watch with your wives, and it is a little uncomfortable. So y'all blame Sibley, not me. Trick question with the wife on the couch acting like she ain't listening. I love it. Well, here's the thing, Doug. I've met your wife before. Very sweet lady. The one thing I remember about your wife, the sequins. She was wearing a shirt at Stumpy's with a ton of sequins, like probably the most sequins I've ever seen. Now, Haley is a boutique store manager, so I've seen a lot of sequins. All right. That's the thing. If you're in South Louisiana, you are going to see women wear sequins. It's just how it is. Now, uh, I'm not Michael Kors or Tim Gunn. I'll never judge a Project Runway show, but sequins, they're in. John says I'd get stranded in the portal. John 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 says he would be a 3-star defensive tackle who only fits in a 4-3 scheme as a 3 tech. There's just not high demand. Oh man, that's funny. That's funny. John, that's funny. That's funny. John says, I mean, I'd have to go. I'd have to go D3. You know what's interesting? I'll share this. So my buddy is a national college basketball reporter, and I shared this in another live stream. But he makes his hay, and he is making bank with the college basketball transfer portal. The college basketball transfer portal is so freaking insane. And I think some of it is because, like, it's a little bit easier to see if a player is going to work somewhere new. Like Hunter Dickinson of Michigan is really good. He's a really good player. He's a proven guy. He goes to Kansas, where he's going to get a Hall of Fame coach. You know, Kansas is going to have a lot of talent. Like, we know for sure he's going to put up 15 and 12 minimum, like every night. Like, he's good. North Carolina, Caleb Love goes to Arizona. Like, college basketball transfer portal is nuts, right? And the thing about like transfer portal recruiting is you know all these guys, right? Like, you know them. And what's interesting is with the college basketball transfer portal, there's more good players that transfer from one school to another than there is in football. For the most part, a lot of football transfers are guys that couldn't play at their first school. Like, one thing that's been very interesting is, you know, with the brand name like LSU, there are some LSU players over the past couple of years. I won't name names because I want them to succeed. And they played for LSU, and there's no, and it'll feel like beating on the dead horse or whatever. There were a lot of players that transferred from LSU that landed at other Power Five schools. Okay, they didn't land at Towson or anything like that. They landed at other Power Five schools where there are warm-blooded mammals who can really play. Okay, now those schools' methodology that recruit those kids is, well, the reason why they didn't make it at LSU is because, well, LSU's just got dudes and they just didn't ever really get an opportunity. When the truth is, more than likely, there are players that enter the portal from LSU to go somewhere else just because they're probably not that good, right? Um, it is amazing some of the landing spots, and it's not just LSU; it's other schools, right? Where if you just look at the tape, it's not good. It's just not. But you're willing to take that risk, right? You know, it's worth taking a shot on, you know, a top 100 guy that didn't work out at the first school. It is interesting. It is very, very interesting. Like, you know, the one thing that drives me crazy, it's harder to compete in the SEC. The players are better. You know, I've gone into, you know, the recruiting data, how much your weight matters in the SEC compared to other conferences at certain positions, like running back. We've done all the breakdowns. But y'all, these other conferences don't suck. Like, Yeah, it's hard to be a good college football player at Maryland. It's hard to be a good college football player at Oregon State. It's hard. Those guys are good too. Like it's not like it's not like you're playing in the Sun Belt. Uh, so I'll see some guys that I know for certain. Just speaking to people in the building at whichever program, they'll tell me, hey, this guy just doesn't have it. It didn't work out. But they'll get another. They'll land at another pretty good school. I'm like, God, it ain't easy. Like it is not easy to be good at other schools. It's not. Now you may not be playing against the same level of competition, but hell, it's like, and this was a big thing for Jaden. Well, he's in the Pac-12 and he's coming to the SEC, and it's tougher. That's true, but Jaden won a lot of games in the Pac-12, and even though the defenses in the Pac-12 aren't that great, and the recruiting level's not nearly the same on the defensive side of the football, it's still hard. It's still hard, right? So, hell, playing in the Sun Belt's hard. I mean, there's so many good football players in the Sun Belt. So many. And that wasn't a knock to them. It's just there are some recruits that I've seen transfer from their first school, and they get a ton of offers just because their first school was LSU or their first school was Alabama, and they have no good tape out there. They only have practice footage that they recorded on their phones, and I'm like, are you sure? Like, are you sure? It's crazy. Warm-blooded mammals. I'm telling you, if you stood on the sideline for a D3 game, you would see how good those guys are. Like they're good. D1 game, SEC game, it's car collisions. It's hard. You're going up against adults. Like think about if you're a true freshman this year. Okay. Let's say you're a true freshman and you line up across from Andre Sam, who is a 2017 recruit. Okay. Those are adults. Those are adults. And that's all there is to it. Next thing you know, half your team listen to NBA Youngboy and the other half of your team listen to T-Pain growing up. There's different eras of players now. Okay, that's their point. And it is a valid point, right? The SEC, they play tougher teams. Stay at 8 because it's way harder in the SEC than it is Nebraska and all that stuff. Well, my retort to that would be this. If you claim you're the best conference, play more conference games. I don't think anyone can ever claim to be the best at something when you don't produce the most of that one thing, right? Like it's a strange thing. So yeah, from a competitive standpoint and getting as many teams in the playoff as you possibly can, sure, stay at 8. But is that the right thing to do? No, go to 9. Go to 9. It's cowardly. And the one thing about going from 9 is these teams can't manipulate the schedules as much as they used to, right? There are some teams in the SEC You've heard me make the Kentucky rant over and over, and if I'm the only SEC YouTuber it's going to bring up that they don't play an SEC schedule like the rest of the conference does, so be it. Okay? A 9-game conference schedule actually makes it a conference. Like, I don't consider something to be a conference, its own entity, if you will, if you don't play most of the teams in your conference. If you play a 9-game conference schedule with 3 permanent teams, you're guaranteed to play every team in your conference once every 2 seasons. Why wouldn't that excite anybody? Okay? And I get it if you're Vanderbilt, if you're Arkansas, if you're one of the schools that don't recruit in the top 15, an 8-game conference schedule is better for you, right? But that's not what you signed up for. Okay? If you want to, here's how I'll describe it. If you're an SEC team and you're not in favor of a 9-game conference schedule, you're not an SEC team. Okay? You're diet SEC, right? You're not the real thing. You claim to be the real thing, but you're not. You're diet SEC. 9 games. Do it now. Do it now. Explain. Okay. Here's what I would do. All right. Keith, good to see you. Yeah. There's no need to discredit the ACC. There's really good teams. Hell, Dontavian Wicks out of Louisiana was a great player at Virginia for a long time. He could really play. But folks, let me ask you this. Here's something I always say about structure. Okay? If you were to explain your sports structure league to somebody who knows nothing about your sport, okay, how would you do it? So let's say somebody from overseas walks in. All right. And if we don't get a super chat here in the next few minutes, we'll go on and end it. But if you want to keep it going, feel free to super chat, join the Patreon, get you some PHL merch and all that stuff. But I'll give you this. If I were to explain to somebody in England or Senegal or anybody that doesn't know anything about college football, and you were to tell them, hey, we are a sports league, we are our own entity, okay? And one of their first questions would be, well, who do you play every year? And you tell them, hey, we play 7 teams, and there's one team that we play the same every year. Now, what I think is going to happen, though, is if it remains at 8, the SEC wants to double dip. The one thing I think that would be disastrous and would just be the same old bad SEC schedule format is it remains at 8 teams and you still have 3 permanents. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. And there's a piece of me that thinks that that's what's going to happen. Okay. But that person would be like, well, why are you a conference, but you only play a school in your conference once every 4 years, once every 3 years, once every 6 years? And you only play them at their building once every 12 years. You can't find another professional league on the planet, sports league on the planet, high school league on the planet, where there are teams in your conference, in your division or whatever, that you don't play every season, or you don't visit their building once every other season. That is, the SEC is the only sport where it's like that. But you claim your conference to be the best when you're the only one that doesn't do that? It's hypocritical, if you ask me. It is. And I understand Greg Sankey was in a tough spot. I think Greg Sankey is going to get too much blame for, it not getting stretched to 9. I think he wanted it to go to 9. I do. I really, really do. any rational mind knows, even if it goes to 9, the SEC is getting 3 teams in the playoff every year. Okay? So, yeah, I got to be real with you. I'm semi disappointed, but what's really going to disappoint me is when it stays at 8 after 2024, because there's a lot of schools, and I give Missouri a lot of credit. Missouri said, "Look, we're not that good of a school. We're one of the have-nots in the SEC. Let's get this thing to 9." Jason, what's good, man? Look, he's rocking the Power Hour stuff. Yeah, that's my point, Pegasus. It's not a matter of end results. It's not. It's a matter of process for me, right? Yeah, you're right. A national championship is a national championship, but we're not just talking about this from a championship standpoint. We're talking about this from a standpoint where everybody wins. Okay, there's Jason right there. It's still one of my top 5 PHL merch photos. Jason went into a mattress store to get this photo made. I love it. It's good stuff. Now, this is the weirdest thing about it is Saban. Okay, Saban has more power than any of the other coaches, and for good reason, right? Saban for the longest. All right, I remember, when my radio career kind of sort of started getting taken off, was around like 2012. So, just over a decade ago, and Nick was the one saying, "Hey, A&M and Missouri are joining. Let's get this thing to non-conference games." Okay. Then a few years later, and this was around the Bielema Sumlin era of the SEC, he was the only coach in the SEC who was pushing for 9. The only one. They voted it. It was 13-1. Okay. And then Saban changes his tune this time around because he got a whiff that his 3 permanent teams are going to be LSU, Tennessee, and Auburn. Okay. I don't know what got into him. Well, you want me to do a film study on the throw to Clyde? Oh, that'd be great. One or 2 more losses guaranteed. Well, don't lose the games. Very simple concept. Don't lose the games on your schedule, and you won't lose those games, right? And I understand. It does give half of your conference 1 extra loss guaranteed. Just simple math there. But that's what you get. You've been in the SEC. You've been getting the fattest checks in college football for the longest. So what? Okay. So yeah, I gotta be real. I just don't have a lot of sympathy. I just don't. Like, sure, that sounds elitist because my team's LSU and we're the 3rd best team in the conference, and sometimes the best team in the conference every year. We're one of the halves, right? But so what if it comes off elitist? Okay. And I totally get, especially South Carolina, because they got to play Clemson every year. I totally get them voting against it. I get it. I totally get it. They want to hold off on 9 as long as you possibly can. Totally get it. Okay. But then again, I all right. Let's go to Grand Super Chat. He keeps it going. I really was getting ready to sign it off, but Jason's in here now. So keep the Super Chats going. Top 5 recruiting wins and top 5 recruiting fails for LSU in the past 15 years. All right. This is the going, obviously, the biggest is Burrow, getting him from Ohio State to LSU, but that's like just an Odell one. So let's actually talk about this. And once again, this is difficult. Number one, like the inner workings of certain recruits isn't my strongest suit. Like, I mean, I know a decent amount about this, but it's not my strongest. Okay. So let's start with the biggest recruiting fail for LSU. And I think in recent memory, the one that really ripped your heart out the most. You can make a strong case for Patrick Surtain. Obviously, that's one that just comes right off the top. That one was brutal. It was brutal. Okay. It looked like he was going to LSU. He goes to Alabama, and he was great. Now, we got Stingley the next year, and it wasn't that big of a deal. And we still had Christian Fulton, but I mean, Patrick Surtain he's just good. And he's going to be in the Hall of Fame one day. But, obviously, as you mentioned, Grant, the ones that really sting are the ones at Alabama from the state of Louisiana. So that's Cam Robinson. Obviously, that was a big one. That was a left tackle who started right out of the womb for 3 years for Nick Saban. And, he's had a pretty good NFL career. And then obviously, as you guys mentioned, Devonta Smith, Landon Collins. So, Travis Etienne. Recruiting fail equals Jordan Jefferson. Oh man, I couldn't disagree more with that. I mean, Jordan won us a lot of games. Was he the best quarterback? No, but he had to play earlier than needed because of the Paraloo situation. And then look, him going to LSU, Ricky Jefferson to LSU, then Justin Jefferson to LSU. So Jordan Jefferson was arguably one of our bigger wins, right? It was a solid quarterback for us, and it led to 2 other LSU greats. One a legend, and the other just a really good starter. Let's see. Recruiting fails, and I mean, obviously, it's any in-state guy to Alabama is just always hurtful. I think an underrated recruiting fail is Cedric Van Pran, the center that went to Georgia. He's really good, and he's won 2 national championships, and that's been, over since Cushenberry, that's been one of our toughest positions, right, in terms of depth and just picking the right guy. So, obviously the in-state guys that go to other schools are just tough. But honestly, I would say Surtain because in recent memory, because it was so heavily rumored that he was picking LSU, and then he ends up picking Alabama, and he was, just very, very, very good. Now, I ended up not hurting us, but still. Recruiting wins. Harold Perkins, I would say, is definitely in that top 5. Fournette, I think he was always going to LSU. But yeah, anytime an elite Louisiana guy goes to another school, it just always sucks. Then it gets into how interested were they even going to LSU. I think there's more guys than we would like to admit that just want to get away from Louisiana. And some of those are, it's good for them to get away from Louisiana. But like recruiting wins, obviously, not factoring in the player actually working out at LSU or having the career we thought they were going to have. Getting Ryan Perrilloux instead of Texas getting Ryan Perrilloux was so big at the time. That felt like the biggest recruiting win ever. Same thing with Fournette and Alabama there at the end, but we always knew he was going to LSU, right? Especially when LSU didn't take a running back the year before. So yeah, it's very interesting. Patrick Peterson's a really good one, as Jordan points out. Patrick Peterson had just all kinds of crazy people coming after him at the end. I've heard stories about Texas A&M. I heard stories about Urban Meyer at Florida because he was from Florida, but he picked LSU. So Peterson is definitely up there. But obviously Harold Perkins is like the biggest one, considering he's definitely the biggest flip that we've had in terms of. It was a little bit different for me because I had heard when we had just done so much Harold Perkins content that people around him were reaching out and saying, "Hey, LSU's not out of it." But you weren't ever really certain that he was going to decommit and flip from Texas A&M, but he ultimately did, and that could be the difference between a national championship or not, because we get him for 2 more years, and we're gonna have good rosters both of those years. So as far as like a flip is concerned, he very well could be the biggest. Joe McKnight is definitely is definitely up there. So yeah, obviously Burrow is always going to be the biggest recruit ever at LSU. Pierce here. I wish Van Pran had chosen LSU, but my cousin who went to school with his dad says he was set on going out of state. I'll tell you this. I won't say who. All right. But there is a father of one of the players on this current team that is a hassle to deal with, and it's hard. There's some people who just don't want their kid going to LSU for whatever reason. Um, there's a lot of different reasons, but you got to keep the mom and dad happy. You just do. But yeah, when it comes to biggest recruiting wins, obviously Perrilloux at the time was just so big. Now, I'm going to give you a deeper cut one in terms of one of the more insane recruitments, and that was Jamar Chase, right? He was committed to Kansas. Then he was going to commit to TCU on the NFL Network. They canceled his announcement. He doesn't actually pick TCU. He commits to Florida. Jim McElwain gets fired, so he doesn't actually go to Florida. And Ed Orgeron eventually gets him to LSU. That is crazy, right? Because obviously we don't win the national championship without Jamar Chase. We just don't. We sure as hell don't beat Clemson. But yeah, that was definitely the biggest miracle of the 2019 team, right? Like Joe Burrow was a miracle, obviously, in Nebraska and all of that, but he was obviously looking for just any Power 5 school where he had a chance to start, and LSU gave him a very good opportunity of that. Jamar Chase could have gone anywhere. He was a top 100 receiver with really good film, and it was a miracle. It honestly was a miracle. It took coaches being fired, recruiting announcements being canceled, committing to Kansas, decommitting to Kansas. I mean, it was crazy. It was crazy. That one was very underrated. Very, very underrated, especially if you factor in like the all-time, best players at LSU. Obviously, Jamar Chase is on that list somewhere. That was big. And then there's other crazy commitments like, say, someone like Nicholas Brissett. He was coming in the same class as Darius Geis. Obviously, he's not an all-time great player, but he's currently working for the school. Texas was a very real possibility. And there were some other late decommitments and flip, like Shiro Davis, a linebacker who also chose Texas over LSU. So yeah, granted, it's tough. So top 5 recruiting wins. I'll go Perk, Chase, obviously Burrow, Parallel. But honestly, at the time, Parallel felt the best because you always felt like Fournette was going to LSU. So yeah, the 2 most hyped recruits we've ever had was Leonard Fournette and Ryan Parallel. And I think number 3, there's a wide variety of guys you can put there at number 3. So I would say Ryan Parallel's number 1. Now, it didn't work out, but in terms of at the time, that felt like the biggest win. Recruiting fails, I don't know. That's really tough. That's really, really, really tough. So Caleb Williams, yeah. I don't know. Like, let me ask you this, Pierce. Was there ever a time during Caleb Williams' recruitment, even though he had LSU in his top 3, was there ever a time during that recruitment you felt he was picking LSU? Okay. And I guess you'd have to go back and look at all the interviews and the Will Fong predictions and all of that. And honestly, I don't know if there was a time where you thought he wasn't going to Oklahoma. Kevin Falk is definitely up there, but Grant's question was within the last 15 years. So, yeah, I guess Parallel barely fits in that 15-year window. Or does he? So, no, yeah, Brian Parallel wouldn't be included in the 15-year stretch. So I'm glad you brought that up, James. So I'm going to go Jamar Chase just because his recruitment was crazy. So early on, yes. But then Riley showed up and it was over. Joe Brady goes to LSU. You think Caleb Williams goes to LSU? Interesting. And honestly, Eric Gilbert was so hyped. And I know it is disastrous to bring his name up on just any live stream, but there you go. Now, I really appreciate each and every one of you. Our top super chatter of the evening is the great John Sibley Butler. He has won that title. James coming in second. Really appreciate you, my man. Rick, Doug, D. Really, Grant, always very generous with this time and money. I appreciate you so very much. Congrats to Jacob. He is the winner of the biggest card I've ever given out on here. I don't give out PSA 10 Burrows that often. So congrats to you, man. Okay. We keep it going. Do I think Brian Kelly goes the full 10 seasons? Oh, Grant, there is a lot in this question. Yes. So right now he's in his early 60s. By the time his contract's up, he'll be 70, right? He'll be like 70 something. I think he will be 70 when his contract is up. I'm going to go with yes, right? Hopefully it's yes. You want the answer to this be yes. Okay. Marcel Brooks. LSU got Caleb, Eric, Chase, Marshall, and Sting on the field. Oh, that'd be crazy. I'm going to go yes. I'm going to go with yes. Colt McCoy would have come to LSU if Parallel went to Texas. That's true. I've heard that story. Cliff shared that story plenty of times. That would have been crazy. LSU quarterback Colt McCoy. Nathan, good to see you. Am I heading to the game? Jacob, thanks for your generosity. You get to pick the next topic. Go right on ahead. Am I heading to the game? First off, Nathan, you are jacked. I mean, goodness gracious, man. I've got to start looking like this. I've gotten so chubby. I'm nowhere close to my athletic shape. And I never looked like this either. Goodness gracious. I mean, I'm not going to the game tomorrow. No. If you're talking about tomorrow. Yeah, I'm not going. Now, I know John Sibley has tried to get me to an LSU baseball game. But yeah, Nathan, tell me your diet, man. I'm telling you, Haley is looking even better. I never thought she could look better. She went on this diet. My goodness. I'm trying to look like what's his name, Joey Swole. That's what I'm trying to look like. Calling people out with the gym etiquette. Dude, some of the gym etiquette, like these TikTokers, Joey Swole content is my favorite. Him calling out these TikTokers. It's wild to me. It's wild to me, some of the things people film in the gym. Wild. Okay. But Grant, I'm going to go with yes. I'm going to go with yes. If BK gets 3 championships before year 8, he'll hang it up. Yeah, I don't know, Pierce. Like, I think he is such a college football historian and he just loves the history. I think he'll keep going. I really do think so. Like, one of my favorite things about BK at this point is like he and I view a lot of things very similarly. So what? It's more difficult to play non-conference games. Do it. One thing I used to say is, man, if we can avoid playing Alabama every year, that's better for us. Now I've just changed my tune on it. It could just be that we're better, and maybe I think Saban is slipping a little bit, but let's play Alabama every year. F it. Let's go. Let's go. Why the freak not? Go. Let's go. If we play more midday games with AC helmets, we can have an advantage. Yeah, Jacob, as far as like the equipment stuff, this is just always going to be the case with college football equipment. Even though Tiger Air is a Louisiana thing, well, obviously with the name, they're also in it for the money. So if the air conditioner helmets really make a difference, I'm not turning down a fat check for Alabama to let me come over there and take over their helmets as well. That's, I mean, Tiger Air, they've been working on this stuff for years. Okay. So any equipment, whether it be catapult or perch or anything like that, they're in it to make money. All right. So everybody's going to have air conditioner helmets. So there you go. Jacob's poll question, 0 to 25% won the poll tonight. All right, y'all. Oh, yeah. What was one thing I wanted to say? Okay, whatever. I'll be chatting in the Discord for a little bit. I got to mail a bunch of stuff out. Big thanks to my BFF Blake Ruffino for jumping on. Hey, if somebody wants to fire one in there, go right on ahead. Heck, we're up this late already. Z had a vet bill of all vet bills yesterday. In other words, if we were to get another hundo and super chance, we still wouldn't be able to cover her vet bill yesterday. But that's not here nor there. It had to get done. She had been, I won't get into what she had been doing. But yeah. Y'all want to know something? Oh, she's good. She's good. I totally lost my train of thought. I was going to say something profound, but I forgot. We'll see you tomorrow. Go Tigers. Let's get a win tomorrow. It is Power Hour LSU. Bam! And tonight, we're doing ribs, night 2. Let's